Good morning, my dear students. Yes, today we are at another new class, right? So we are discussing database connectivity for a while. So we have discussed about DAO control, data active objects. The next one we are going to see is going to be ActiveX data objects. So it's going to be ADO control. So I said we have two different types of database data objects in your syllabus. One is DAO, another one is ADO. So ADO is what we are going to discuss today. ActiveX data objects, right? So when we already have a data control, say DAO is already there, we have seen how do you connect your database into the front end. So how do you use this DAO as an interface and connect your database and the front end? We have already seen that. Then what is the requirement for ActiveX data objects? Right? If you remember, when we were discussing about DAO, I told you that it is only used to connect simple databases. When it comes to advanced databases, it is not very effective. You will not be able to retrieve a large amount of data and manipulate the data in DAO. So because of those limitations, we have to move to something called as ActiveX data objects, ADO, right? Right. So how do you remember what do you mean by a simple database and what do you mean by a little advanced database? For example, I will give you Microsoft Access is a simple database, right? Microsoft Access is going to be a simple database. It is going to be Microsoft product. So connecting with VB, there will be no compatibility issues, and Microsoft Access only can store very limited amount of data. So it's going to be easy for you to connect it using DAO. But when it comes to databases like, say, for example, Oracle, when you're using Oracle, so it's going to be a RDBMS which can store a huge amount of data and a lot of manipulations are available. So how do you interface that with your front end? You have to go in to use ActiveX data controls. So that's why you go in for using ActiveX data controls. So let us see what is the necessity, right? First thing is DAO, as I told you just now, has limitations. It can only work for limited data. That's the first point you have to remember. It can only work for limited data. So we are going to go into ADO controls. ADO works with different types of data from various platforms. See, that's what I told you, the compatibility. So whenever it is the Microsoft Windows is your operating system, installing Microsoft Visual Studio or Visual Basic is going to be easy for you because there is the compatibility. Similarly, when your database is going to be, say, Microsoft Access, it's again going to be Microsoft Office product. Access is Microsoft Office product. So when they're all Microsoft products, there definitely will be compatibility. And still you have to also look for the versions so that the compatibility issue doesn't occur. So these are the things which we have to look for. Imagine when we have problem, actually when we all of us remember, whoever has tried installing it in your laptops had problems installing, say, VB6 in your Windows 10. So you had difficulty. So though it is Microsoft product, you had difficulty because there was no compatibility because of the version problem. So we had that problem. Imagine if it is going to be a different platform. It is going to be a huge database. It's going to be a database from some other say some other some other company, from some other company like Oracle and all. So you're going to face issues, more issues. So instead of using DAO, we will go into ADO, which gives us all that options. In ADO, what you can do is you can connect any type of database, databases from any company using ODBC, open database connectivity, can be used to connect those databases. So that's why we say ADO works with different types of data from various data platforms, programming languages. Even data can be collected from internet and email. So these data also can be collected and used, manipulated. Right. So how will I use, where do I find this particular control? This control is not present in your toolbox. So what you have to do, whatever control that is not present in your toolbox are all known as ActiveX controls. If you remember, you have to go to project components. In this case, it's going to be Microsoft ADO data control 6.0. Microsoft ADO data control 6.0. So when you choose this, you will get the data control in place. So we will be doing that also. So before that, let us discuss the theoretical part of it and then move on to see the implementation of it, right? Yes. Okay, how do I define an ADO? It is an object-oriented interface that is exposed to Microsoft Jet database engine. So ADO uses a database engine. So a database engine is the one which is used to manipulate the data. So using database engine, you can do manipulations to the data. So you have to first connect your ADO to the through your Microsoft Jet database engine, and it allows the VB developers to directly connect to other databases through ODBC. So as I told you, so if it is going to be Microsoft Access, you don't need ODBC, just go via Microsoft Jet database engine and then connect to MS Access. If at all it is going to be some other software, say for example Oracle, then you have to use ODBC connectivity. So what do you mean by ODBC connectivity? ODBC is Open Database Connectivity. Open Database Connectivity. It refers to a standard protocol. So what is the standard protocol? There are various steps. Okay, you have to follow. You have to give what is the connection string. You have to give what is the record source for any connection. So you have to follow a protocol, and there are different steps. Okay, which you have to follow to set up the ODBC connectivity. Yes, it permits applications to connect to a variety of external databases. So it allows you, ODBC basically allows you to connect to external databases. Okay, so databases from other company, or maybe the other product, or from your external, which means the server based databases can be connected through ODBC, right? So what are we discussing now? We said there are two different ways of connecting. Either if it is going to be Microsoft Access, we use ADO with just through Microsoft Jet database engine and connected. If it is going to be external databases, then we have to go in for ODBC connectivity. So that's what we have discussed so far, right? Next. Yes, so when I say you have, in the previous class I have told you what are the basic properties you need for connection is connection string. You should also know where the record source is. So connection string is nothing but it's going to tell you where your database is. That is the first thing you should know. Second thing you should know is where is the record set. So record set is nothing but your record source is nothing but your table name. So which is the table you are going to use. So here also you need those things. Apart from that, if it is ODBC connection, you also have to set up a driver. ODBC driver has to be set up before you connect and manipulate the database. So that also is going to be one more extra step for ODBC, right? So before the connection, you should know what are the various types of record set objects available. Okay, so even yesterday, if you have noticed, there is a data set object property there. So which said dynaset. So dynaset is going to be the default data set object. So we are going to see what are the different types. So you will know what is dynaset and why it is used, right? So let us go and see one by one. So first type is called table type record set. So record set means, so you have a table, inside the table you are storing all the records. So what do you mean by record set? Record set is going to be collection of records or set of all records. It's going to be your record set, right? So how are you going to access them is the question now. How am I going to access? In table type record set, so what will I do? The complete table from the database is represented. I'll just say this is the table. I'll give the table and the manipulations will all happen with the table itself, directly with the table itself. Table which you store inside the database itself is going to be manipulated. That type of record set is called as table type record set. Okay. So I repeat, table type record set is going to represent the actual table which is present inside your database, right? And what are the manipulations you can do? So manipulations are going to be basics, the same thing like add, new, delete, update and so on, and also navigations like move forward and move backward. So these are the manipulations you can do with your data. So all those things is possible with table type record set, right? The next type is called as dynaset type record set. Dynaset type record set, right? So it's very easy. Dynaset type record set is going to represent the data not directly as table. Instead, it is going to use it as a form of a query. Okay. So what is the query? What will be the result of a query? Okay. So dynaset type record set is going to be specifying, or it is going to point, that record set is going to point to the records which are not directly from the table. Instead, they are going to be a result of a query. For example, instead of saying this table is what you are going to manipulate, I cannot give the table. Instead, I will say select star from database. Say for example, select star from student, and all the records will be selected and it will be stored in a virtual database which I will use for manipulation. You understand? So through a query. So whenever you are going to represent the table through a query, then it is known as a dynaset type. It is called as a dynaset type. Here a virtual table will be created. What you should remember, right? Again, manipulations same. Add, new, delete, update are going to be the manipulations. Add, delete, save, update. These are the manipulations. There is no change in them. Yes. And one more plus point here is that you can dynamically add fields from other tables also. See, I told you that it is a virtual table. Okay, so in database you would have studied creating these kind of virtual tables, right? So you call them as views. So how can I create a view? I can create a view from a single table. I can choose say particular fields whichever I wanted, or I can club particular fields from one table and also add some fields from the other table, and then I call that as a view. So this is very similar to that. So dynamically means on the go I can add it from the other tables also. So you can form your virtual table either from the a single table or more than one table also. You can form whatever virtual table you have is now your data set. Okay, all the manipulations will happen from that particular data set. See how flexible this option is, right? The next one is called snapshot type record set. Snapshot type. So the name itself tells you what it is used for. Snapshot here means just gives a snap of it. It's like a photocopy. So what happens here? It represents a static copy. See, since it is a photocopy, any dynamic changes cannot be recorded. Say for example, if I am recording a video, if there is a change they are moving, then that movement is also going to be recorded, which I can say is a dynamic change. But when I take a photograph, okay, so it is just going to record that particular second like a snap. Okay, it's going to just snap or shot. It's going to shoot that particular second, and then you cannot see any dynamic changes. It is going to be static. So this is similar to that. So represent a static copy of a set of records which is only read, can be read only, which can only be read, or it is read only. So you cannot make any changes. It is a static copy. If at all some data were added after you have taken a snapshot, some data was added to your table, that will not reflect in your snapshot type record set. So it is static and it is only read only. It is read only and static. Contains fields from other table but cannot be updated actually. So that's why we don't use the word dynamically here. So nothing is dynamic about snapshot type. So here the whatever table you are going to use, even that is going to be a snapshot, or it is going to be a static copy of the table, right? And it is going to be only read. You can only read from the table. You cannot do any updations. So you cannot add new record. You cannot save or update. You can use that and do like move forward, move backward, and read the record and do something with that data. Right, that is all you can do. And you can also add fields from other tables like you did in Dynaset record set. You were able to add fields, but it is not dynamic, which means you can also add it as a snapshot only. So you cannot do get any changes done dynamically. Everything is going to be static, be it the same table or from the other tables, right? So let me again summarize what we have seen now. So there are three types of record set objects. The first one is table type record set, second one is Dynaset type record set, third one we saw is snapshot. Table type is going to exactly represent the same table. You will be given the same table, you can do manipulations with the same table. Right. Next one is you are not going to be given the same table because the data may get lost. So what are you going to do with a virtual copy of the table will be given to you. Okay, and you can do your manipulations with that virtual copy of the table. The last one is snapshot type. Here you don't have a dynamic copy, either instead you only have a static copy and it is read only. So these are the three types. Types of data sets is a very important question, definite question in your final exam. So definitely they will ask. So these data set object types are same for DAO and ADO. So I am only doing that once, because once it is done, it is the same thing for both DAO. Whether it is asked for DAO or ADO, doesn't matter. It is going to be these 5 different types. Actually, we have 5 different types of record set objects. So 3 done, 2 more to go, right? So don't forget, it is a very important university question also, right? Next one is called forward only type. Okay, so what I mean by forward only type is, it is similar to a snapshot. It is similar to a snapshot, which means it is going to be a static copy only, but you can scroll through the record. So it is just forwarded copy. You cannot do any changes. It's like your forwarded message where you cannot do any editing. So you have to just, after forwarding it, it is just forwarded message. It is not your own message. Similarly, it is a forwarded copy. It's like a snapshot only. Only difference is you can scroll through the records. You can go through the records. It is not kind of read only. You can scroll through the records and see what it is, right? That can be done is forward only type record set. The last one is called dynamic. As the name suggests, it's a dynamic type record set only. It represents and stores queries result set from one or more tables, right? So here also you are going to use queries to store the result. So you can do manipulations, you can use update. So these queries can be used where you can do manipulations and you can dynamically change the database, the values present in the database. Here operations also can be done like add, delete, update can also be done, right? So other users addition and deletion is also reflected. See this is very dynamic. So what we said in the previous cases is you can take the database which is already there, okay, but when the changes happens in that database, it will not be reflected. In previous case it will not be reflected in the new database, but in this particular dynamic type record set, so even if you have created a view, something like a view, even if you have created a virtual record set from one or more tables, any changes made to those tables will also be reflected here. That is how dynamic it is. It is called dynamic type record set. So we have 5 types of record sets. So make a note of it. This is one question which is very common. It's asked like in at least 2-3 years. In last 5 years, at least 3 times I think it must have been asked. So it's a very important question. Please make a note of it. So databases has only these questions. Say for example, types of record set. According to me, that is the first question you should study in databases. The second one is, so using DAO, what are the methods, what are the properties? Similarly, ADO, what are the methods and what are the properties? So one example program for each will do. So that's all you will have to study in your database topic. Right, we'll move on. Here, I wanted to also show you how this ADO is created. So I don't have slides for how do you add what are the steps in creating an ADO. I would instead show you in the steps actually in live. Okay, practically I will like to show you. The first thing you should do is I want to create an ADO control. Let us assume I have created the database already, right? So what are the steps in creating an ADO control? So first I will go to project, I will go to components. I have to choose what? The ADO data control. So it's right here. Microsoft ADO data control 6.0. So Microsoft ADO data control 6.0, right? Apply. Yes. So here I have it. ADO DC, ADO data control. ADO DC is here. I click on that. I place it. Right? My ADO DC is here. So let me see what table I can use. So this is the data control. Let it be before going and changing the properties. I'm not sure what data is present in my table. Just I'll open some table. Let us say student. Okay. Student is the name of the database. So student is the name of the database. It is in this particular folder, online classes. This is the folder I have. And then I also should know what is the table name. The table name here is STUD. The fields are going to register number, name and course. Okay, STUD, remember that is a table name, and these are going to be the fields of that database, right? Yeah, we will keep it aside. Right, now, so what I should do, I should actually connect this to the database present. The database name is student ICT. How do you do that is, I will right click it, I'll go to ADO DC properties. Okay, what did I do now? I right click this ADO control, I'm going to the ADO DC properties. So now I get this window. Okay. So I'm going to say use connection string. So I'm going to create a connection string one. Connection string now. I basically told you connection string is all about where the database actually is. Okay. In this case, you also have to provide the engine. Okay. Let us see that. So I have to click on use connection string and then I have to click on build. Right. So what is that I told you? How do you connect it? What engine do you use? You use Microsoft Jet engine. In our case, it is going to be Jet 4.0, right? So you're going to use Microsoft Jet 4.0. I'm going to say next. Here I have to say where my database is. So I'm going to just browse. Okay, here is my database. Okay, so whether it is able to connect, maybe you can try using connection. Text connection succeeded. Okay, fine. Right. So what I have done now, connection string is all set. So I have told what engine I will be using. Microsoft Jet engine is what I'm going to be using. Then I have also specified the path of my student database. So these are the two things I have done. What is the next step? I told you for any connection you need a connection string and a record source, or you should also know where the table is. What table are you using? here record source, I'm going to say, I'm going to use a command. So what is the query I'm going to use here? Select. So I told you we are using Dynaset. Dynaset here will be creating a virtual table using a query. So the result of the query will be the record set which we will be using. So what is the query I'm going to use here? Select star from, what is the table name if you remember? STUD. Yes. So I'll select star from STUD. So what happens? I don't touch the actual table. Instead I'm going to create a virtual table and I'm going to only take what? All the records available. Select all the records without any condition. Here I can even give some conditions. I can say where. Yeah, it's possible. So the result of the query will form a new record set. Okay, but remember Dynaset is also dynamic. Dynaset is also dynamic, which means if I make any changes to this virtual database, it also is going to reflect. It is not read only. Okay, so that is one thing you should remember. So just I have to say apply. I have to say okay. Right, the connection is done here. How will I know if it is connected? So what I can do is I can just have a label, say name. Name is there. I'm also going to say the name is going to be fetched from my database. So name has to be fetched from the database. So what are the properties we used? Yes. So here I want to again remind you one thing, that this particular text box is called as a data bound control, wherein you can fetch data from the database and you can display the data in your text box. So that these controls wherein you can connect to the database are called as data bound control. There is another name which is usually asked in your exam. It is called as data aware controls. What are data aware controls? Data aware controls are same as data bound controls. The controls will be able to retrieve or connect to the database and retrieve the data from the database. So that you should remember, data aware controls, right? So same properties which we did yesterday for the DAO. So I have to say data source. Yesterday, if you remember, we did data 1 for that. Here the name, default name here is going to be ADODC1. So now I have to choose the field name. So all the fields are listed here. Field name I'm choosing is name. So I only want name. I don't want the other things. So let us see. Right. So here I have the name fetched from my database. So I can just move and see all the data here. So this is your ADODC control. You understand? Yes. So what have we discussed so far? We have discussed two things. In database we have discussed what is a DAO and we have also discussed what is an ADO. Okay. So next thing is I would like to share a program with you which is going to be using ADO data control. So that is going to be a part A program. It's a very important program. That program will also be asked in the exam. So if they are not asking types of data record sets, the next only option is to ask this program. This is called as login program. Username and password has to be entered and you will check whether the username and password enters are correct. Okay, you are going to do an authentication of your username and password. That is a program we are going to do. Yeah, that's it for this in this class. Thank you.